Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Love of Business Show at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am the managing member of Classic Communications. And I am here with a good friend of mine named John Baraquio with Able Pest Management, and he is going to share with us all about his love of business, coming live from Hawaii. Man, the last person I interviewed from Hawaii, John, was you.
Really? Oh my goodness. Well, we're gonna have to change that, brother. There are a lot
Welcome
of
to the
people.
Love of Business Show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I'm excited, bro.
And you being out on the road, I know we talked about this before we came on the air. You're out there working in your industry right now, expressing your love of business in your vehicle, and that's a dedicated businessman.
One day I won't have to be doing this day in, day out, man. That's what we're striving for, at least.
Tell us about your business.
We do pest control services here on the state of Oahu. We take care of general pests such as roaches, ants, spiders, beetles, silverfish, the stinging and biting bugs like bed bugs, wasps. We do rodents, which is rats, house mice. We do commercial and residential properties for churches, condominiums, high rises, schools, bakeries, golf courses. So it's a full gamut of pest control services. A lot of our stuff, bread and butter, is the maintenance. So we're constantly seeing people on a regular basis, whether it's on a monthly, sometimes for restaurants where they're weekly, like clubs. I know that everything's kind of shut down now, but that's pretty much what we do. Pest and rodent control business that I've been a part of for over half my life, which is pretty crazy.
And I don't think a lot of people, John, may realize how active people who are in the pest control industry are. It's sort of a behind the scenes type of job, but as you mentioned, there are so many different types of industries that are dependent on pest control, and so I would imagine that keeps you pretty busy all the time.
It's they're saying that this industry is the one that's everything proof. So not just here in Hawaii, but I've already talked to some other companies throughout the mainland that said not only is their business still rocking, but it's all, some of them are like 25 to 50 to even doubled what they were generating from last year and the previous years. So yep, I think this pandemic just kind of boosted this whole industry, not here in Hawaii, but all over the country.
And of course, it being an industry where there's always going to be a need for pest control, I guess there's a certain amount of security that you have in that, right, John? As you mentioned, your industry has actually been increasing during a time when a lot of industries around the country and the world have been on the other side of that. So I guess there's a feeling of security, even though, of course, you got to go out there and show your love of business by getting new clients and maintaining the clients you have. But I guess it feels pretty good to be in basically a recession-proof industry.
No, absolutely. And it's been going ever since I started this company in 2000. So this is the 20th year now that we just finished. We just completed. I started this business in April of 2000. And every year we've been averaging about 15% increase. But the last 2 years have been the biggest jumps. And my accountant is saying, you know what, whatever you're doing, brother, just keep on doing, because I mean, there's a lot of change that we made. One of the biggest ones being our software, and that's, I think, was the biggest leap that our company could have definitely used in the last 20 years. I mean, if I probably did this like 10 years ago, who knows where my company would have been. But we have definitely been on the right track, and throughout everything, all the years, the 20 years, you know how many different things have happened, whether it's the big, from the world trade through all the recessions, the big booms, we've continued to grow on a consistent basis, and it's been incredible.
And that is quite a run in business, John. 20 years of continuously running a business, and you having been in your business for that long, you know that that's a very rare thing, that a business actually lasts for that length of time. Was there things that you did at the very beginning of establishing your business that you feel set the tone for you to be able to last this long?
Absolutely. When I first started, everyone's hungry, right? Hungry for knowledge. So I started going to all these seminars, how to finance seminars, business seminars. I went to a bunch of different banks and lenders trying to get everything all settled in. But the one book that definitely set the tone for my business, and I believe I told you this before, it's the absolute Bible. I tell everybody about it. Whoever wants to start a business, is Michael Gerber's EMyth, the EMyth Revisited. So I read that book back in 99, and from there it just opened my eyes on what business really was about, how it should be done, and that's what I've been modeling my business after all these years.
Yeah, I know you referred that book to me years ago, and I agree with you, John. I mean, if you take the EMyth seriously and you really implement the systematic approach that they teach you in that book, Michael Gerber, I think it's just genius for anyone who's running a small business, the things that he recommends. But I would say definitely, of course, some of the other things that you had mentioned. But that book specifically really shows why some businesses survive and how so many others don't. And it's the whole systematic approach, which I've watched you, because we've been friends for many years, implement in your own business. And you were talking about that software thing a couple of minutes ago. And I think that the EMyth mentality probably gave you the insight to make the adjustment in your business that allowed you to bring that in and continue to grow.
That is the absolute truth, man. In fact, we've been this for 20 years. I have used 3 different software programs. The first one was an absolute disaster. The second one we actually ended up using for about the bulk of our business, about 12 years, 14 years, but it just wasn't moving up with the times as much as we wanted it to. And I knew that there are other programs out there that was offering the things that we wanted to start implementing into our business. But I really loved this other program. It was a mom and pop business, but they grew from a small company to a huge industry as well. And they started servicing people not only on the East Coast, but started moving to the West Coast and started targeting people in Hawaii as well. And I really loved the organization, the family mentality, but they just weren't growing as fast as I could. And as much as I hated to leave them for another company, that's what I ended up doing. In fact, I wanted to leave 5 years ago, but they kept on promising me, oh no, John, we got this stuff working, we got this thing working, and it never came through fruition. So 2 years ago, I finally just said, you know what, I love you guys, but I gotta make the switch. And that was one of the hardest things for me, because I'm I'm into the whole loyalty thing, but loyalty can only take you so far, right? If you're not growing with that person or that company, we got to make the switch. And that's exactly what I did. And it was huge. It took about 1.5 years for us to completely do the transition, but it's paying off dividends like you would not believe. And yes, it was the EMyth that definitely helped me make that transition.
And you mentioned a minute ago about being in business for 20 years and the amount of things that happen in your business over a time period of that length. What is it that keeps you moving through all these different situations? I mean, you've got clients, different clients that you're working with, you have employees, you have software, you have, of course, your whole life situation. I know you've raised kids over this time, you have a wife, all these different things are happening simultaneously while you're running your business. How have you been able to keep yourself focused and to maintain a love for business through all these different circumstances that you've been experiencing?
Well, first of all, I mean, I really have a strong faith in God. So I do have I've been raised like this for years. And even when times have been like really brutal, where I would not know where the next paycheck was going to come from to pay off my rent and payroll, somehow God would just like, boom, here you go. So that is the biggest thing. I do have a deep faith in God and the higher ups. So that's number one. Number two, I have my wife. You've met Mel before. She has been my solid foundation. She's kind of the reason why everything that I do, whether it's a great idea in my belief or the dumbest thing ever, she's going to have my back and she's going to let me know what her thoughts are. But regardless, she's always going to say, you know what, John, I support you all day, all night. So go for it. And so that's a huge thing. And of course, I got my two kids, Echo and Blaze. She's going to be 21 in January. So I know this because once she was born, that's when I started my business. She was not even 6 months old. And then Blaze, he's 17 years old. So those are, I wouldn't say the reason why, but I'm telling you that they are definitely a big part of my success. I continue wanting to work for them. I want to be there for them. And that's probably, I'd say, the biggest thing that has kept me going. Not only is it the excitement of running your own business, but also watching my kids and my family develop and grow as I'm building this business. So I also have the freedom. I had the freedom when they were growing up to go to their swim meets, their basketball games, their taekwondo tournaments. I was there for all to help them coach, in baseball. I was there for them in their young times. And I don't think a lot of parents had that freedom to do that because, of their own situation. But since I had my own business and I could create my own hours, that's exactly what drove me to continue to strive to continue to have this business, that I can have a freedom of doing other things in my life.
Well, I've always admired your entrepreneurial spirit, John, through all the years that I have known you. And you touched on something a second ago about the nurturing of your business, and the part of the love of business is you're developing something, and you yourself are doing that along with a team, as you mentioned, your wife, your faith, but you're creating something. And to watch it blossom and grow, and to go to the accountant and see that the numbers are going up, and you've got employees, you're helping them to be able to take care of their families at the same time. It sounds like to me that there is a lot of satisfaction that you get from that experience that you've had being a business owner for the last 20 years.
No, absolutely. And my team is absolutely incredible. Some of these guys, they've been with me for 7-8 years. I've had some people with me for 15 years. One of the guys that I started with, he actually decided to go his own way. He had a heart attack, and I told him, you know what, as long as you can still stick around. And a couple months later, he said, yeah, I got to let you guys go. So I have had a great team surrounding me, like, all the greatest leaders out there. Whenever we're lacking in one thing, we got to try to find someone that can help us out in what we're lacking and pick up that slack. And that's what I've been doing in my business, is surrounding me with people who are much better in the office, with managing people, with doing stuff on the road than I ever was. I mean, I'll do the initial training. I'll tell them, this is what we believe in. This is what our core values are. This is what we stand for. But then have other guys who are much stronger than me in those other areas take the helm and fly with it. So I think that's what I'm pretty good at, is finding the right people, developing them, and letting them just go run off wild and do their thing in our business.
You had mentioned the fact that you did quite a bit of personal development. I know you and I met as a part of a great personal development experience many years ago, and you talk about the things that you've done. And you were just talking about leadership a minute ago, having these teams for many, many years, having people who are able to cover your blind spots, as we all have. Tell me about the leadership component of business and how significant that has been, and how the personal development experiences you've had have contributed to that, better leadership of your company.
That's so funny because I always thought that I was a pretty good leader until and I'm one of 10 children. I'm the fourth oldest. I had 2 brothers, 7 sisters, but one of my brothers, my younger brother, he was like the tightest I've in my family. Me and him were probably the tightest out of everybody. And he ended up committing suicide 14 years ago. and just blindsided not just me but the entire family, all his friends. They were like, what the heck just happened? And that absolutely opened my eyes to what could you have done better, John? Are you kidding? And that's where I think I first met you in that leadership series from Clemmer and Associates. They came into my town and I was like just having all these questions about faith and relationships and leadership, and I'm like, what is happening here? I ended up going to one of their first seminars, and it was just it's life changing. As you know, that's where I met you. I met some of the greatest people in my life there. But the things that I learned, I think a lot about leadership is learning about myself. What makes me tick? What makes me run? And from there, and only from there, can I determine what I need to do to strengthen myself and my relationships with not only people, not with my wife, my kids, but also with God, with money, with finances, with everything. And that's where it starts with. Leadership starts with finding out who I am, developing myself, and going from there. And it's been absolutely life-changing. You've seen my journey from where I was from 15 years ago, and I would not change that for the world. And it's, I mean, we're still learning every single day, but that's part of the journey, right?
Absolutely. And the things that you and I learned, specifically in this seminar series that we did together, it wasn't so much about the outside world. It really was about our internal stuff that a lot of times, if you don't have an experiential experience like that, you don't necessarily address some of these aspects of us internally that can hold us back from truly being the people that we were meant to be. And so I know for you and I, we had an ongoing relationship beyond the seminars. We were part of this mastermind for many years. Was it, I don't know, 10 or 11 years we did a mastermind together, where we kind of took this to another level beyond just that seminar experience, which is a great experience, but these masterminds and us getting together weekly and really supporting one another as you had before. You know, what an important tool to have in your toolbox, right? You've got not only your family, your faith, but then you've got groups of people around you. Or with us, it was a very small group of people specifically who were really pulling for one another, supporting one another. Does that matter a lot? I know it matters a lot for me in my business. It's just as many groups of people who support what I'm doing as possible around me. Very helpful in continuing to move forward.
No, that is absolutely vital. It's, I mean, so I've gone to a couple workshops, you know, about business development. One thing that I definitely did learn is that we have to have the right people in the right seat. And that's not just in family, but also in business and in life. So we have these life coaches that we all have to have, because some people have their strengths and weaknesses, and we got to know where they fit into our lives. And if they don't fit into our lives and they're not flowing in the same direction that we want to flow in, then we either got to change our seats in life or have them change their seat if we have the power for us to do that. So same in my business. If I have someone that I believe is a very strong salesperson, but not very strong in the field doing the technical work, I'm not going to have them do technical work. I'm saying, hey, brother, why don't you go test your skills on this and let's go try this. But at the same time, we all have to be flowing in that same direction. Everyone has to know what the end goal is, what the end results are supposed to be. And if we don't have that, that's exactly what the mastermind was. We know, I know what I want, what my values are, what my goals are, and you and Jess and Jason, you guys were all we were all helping each other out. And that's how it is with my family, my wife, my two kids. I don't know where they want to go, they know where I want to be, and we're just all pulling each other in the same direction, going up downstream, and absolutely vital.
When you're running a business, John, as you know, having run this business for a long time, there are so many different components and things to manage And that's one of the great things about the EMyth book that I got, was that you have to be attentive to every aspect of your business for it to be cohesive and to work in the way that you are describing. Could you speak on that? How you, as the leader of the organization, how you have to make sure that everything is working together in order for you to be able to produce the results for your clients that enable you to continue to run your business.
Yeah. So again, as the leader of the company, we don't want to be dipping our hands in too much of the stuff that doesn't really concern us, right? So what I usually do is I have a weekly meeting with the staff, and I have a weekly meeting with every single person all together. Right now we have 14 people, but in the office there's only 5 of us. So every week for the office meeting, we have certain numbers that we look at, and it's our report card, it's our scorecard that I'm concerned about. Not the day-to-day stuff. I'm not here. They get tons of emails and phone calls all day, and they handle all that. What I'm concerned about is the numbers that are most important to us, and we manage that together. If there's something that's happening, whereas say the collections are over 20%, that's 90 plus days, I'm looking at that. I said, you guys know that this has to be under 5%. Where is the struggle? Why is this happening where it's over 20% of what needs to be collected? And then we'll all work together to do that. But as far as I do have my finger on the pulse of the business, which is absolutely important. But to dig into all the minute details of it, that's why we have different leaders of that of those sections handling those different areas. So I have an office manager, I have the field manager, I have, of course, our accountant who overlooks all of our stuff and says, hey, John, you know what? You're a little high on the advertising. Maybe you should cut back on the TV ads, and maybe on the radio ads, and just add more on the SEO side. So I have someone else giving me advice on that. And then from there, I'll talk to my office staff and my field staff and say, hey, you know what? We got to up these numbers in commercial properties. Maybe do this and this for our collections. And then from there, that's all that matters. So I do have my finger on the pulse, just showing exactly what kind of numbers we're looking for on a weekly basis, and on a monthly basis, and a quarterly basis. And then we just go from there. But yes, we definitely need to know what's going on, and at the same time have the people in charge of it do their thing, rather than hover over them and just always, what is that called, the micromanaging. That's exactly what we don't do here.
If you could give some advice to someone who's in business or wants to get started in business on how to create more love for what they're doing, what would it be?
You know that we can't really teach people how to love what they're doing, right? I mean, it's either, a lot of the times it's either in you or it's not in you. And that's what I've always believed. I think probably when you were young too. I mean, when I was a kid, like I'm one of 10 children, right? And there's only 2 of us that really had the entrepreneurial spirit. But even that second one ended up starting a business, ended up not succeeding, and went to the corporate world. But ever since I was a kid, I loved it. I used to buy a bag of candy, right, for about $2, and I would go back home and sell it to my sisters for like a quarter each. So by the time it was only like a half a bag left, I already doubled my money from what I already paid for it. And then when they found out what I was doing as they got older, they started calling me an extortionist. And I'm like, I'm not an extortionist. I'm a businessman. But I used to love that in grade school and high school. I used to it's not good, but I was a bookie. I used to take bets all the time. I used to love it. I just used to love the idea, like we were talking about, creating something out of nothing. And just dealing with people. But if that's one thing I would like to tell people is, you got to love people for anything to work. You got to love relationships, love people, and see what makes them tick. That's really the bottom line. And for the people that cannot love people or love relationships, it's going to be very hard to succeed in business, whatever type of business it is. So that's pretty much it. I can't tell you how to love people, but being really concerned about them, about their their lives, you know. And I think that's what really separates me from a lot of people, because even like I have like one true best friend that I think is my best friend, but he looks at me, he goes, John, I know you think me and you are best friends, but you look around, you're the godfather of like 15 kids. You've been the best man for like 4 or 5 different people. You know, everyone thinks of you as their best friend. They all want you to do their eulogy when they pass away, you know. But I just believe that I really take a serious I love people. I love talking with them, seeing what makes them tick, and I think that's the best thing you can do as a business person, is just be very honest with yourself and with other people. And I think that's what really drives me and my love for business.
Yeah, that's some outstanding advice, John, because when it all comes down to it, it really is all about people. And I know we're doing transactions in business. Of course, there's an element of that truly is transactional, but the transaction happens between people. So there's always that element. No matter how transactional things are that we are doing, there's always a person on one side and a person on the other side. And people can sense it. They know when you are someone who truly believes in them, cares about them. And I haven't been your friend for many years. I definitely feel like you are that type of person. And that has probably greatly led to the success that you've had in your own business.
Well, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate all you do. I love you too, brother. And you know, we have a good time when I go to Vegas, and when you come to Hawaii, we knock it out of the park. So we got to do it again, man.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for stopping by to Love of Business. And if anyone over there in Hawaii is looking for a pest control company, how can they get in contact with you?
Our website, ablepesthawaii.com. ablepesthawaii.com, or our phone number is 953-2253.
Thank you again so much, John, for sharing your love and passion for business and leadership. Just outstanding strategies that you shared with us all to make us understand the value of loving the things that we're doing in our business lives.
Thank you so much, Guy. I appreciate it, man. Merry Christmas to you, the family, your mama. Please tell her I said hi.
Yeah, same to you, your lovely kids and your wife. And, you know, this is what it's all about, getting together with your friends. And it's all about relationships, just as John had talked about. And so thank all of you for tuning into the PRConnectionsRadio.com, the Love of Business show. We will be back on the air soon with more stories with great entrepreneurs such as John Baraquio. Stay tuned and have a Merry Christmas.